Hello and welcome everybody to another episode. I'm here with Colleen.
Hello.
And we are excited for our guest today with a very great and relevant topic to so many of us, Marla Mervis-Hartmann. Hi, Marla.
Hello. So happy to be here.
We are very glad that you are here. And we realized before we started the recording that I think Marla and I are wearing earrings from the same artist very randomly that Colleen got me 10 years ago in Hana. And Marla lives in Maui or on Maui or in Maui and got her earrings in Hana as well. So it was very fortuitous. So, anyways, we're really excited to have you here today, Marla. And as I said, such an important and very relevant topic to many of us, which is all about, loving your body, loving yourself. And so I'll go ahead and, read your bio and then we'll get into it. So, as the creator of Love Your Body, Love Yourself, Marla Mervis-Hartmann helps women access their yes to the question, do you love your body? After experiencing years of dysfunction in relation to food, exercise, and body confidence, Marla transformed her life through the radical act of self-compassion and friending herself. She has since used her experiences to help empower women as they choose their appreciation for their bodies, honor themselves through nourishing lifestyle choices, and cultivate confidence along the way. Marla works at Ai Pono, an eating disorder center, sharing Body-Love Reiki Circles, and was known as the leading body image expert and Reiki Master at Journey Malibu, a drug and alcohol rehabilitation center. Most recently, she has been featured at TEDx Salinas. Her dedication to women's studies has had several focuses, including women's sexual wellness, postpartum care, pelvic floor support, tantra and yoga instruction, massage therapy, and lifestyle coaching through Love Your Body, Love Yourself. Her mission is to inspire women to feel good about themselves as they pursue the lives they desire. Currently, Marla lives in Maui with her husband Olaf and son Aspen, where she works full-time as professional coach, speaker, facilitator, and living light Reiki Master and instructor. Marla will see her first book, Befriend, which is Be-Friend Yourself, on bookshelves in the fall of this year, which is 2024. You can find her on Instagram at Love Your Body, Love Yourself Always, Facebook, Love Your Body, Love Yourself, and YouTube as Marla Mervis. And then her website, which you can just find everything there, is loveyourbodyloveyourself.com. And so we're excited today to have Marla on because this is such a huge topic. I know definitely for Colleen and myself, for so many of us that are out there. Marla, one of the things that I didn't get to mention, and I saw your podcast and episode and hadn't had a chance to listen to it fully yet, is I have a 7-year-old daughter. And so that episode that you had about, kind of breaking the cycle and having body positivity within your household is also it's not just for myself, but it's also for her and those conversations. But why we're excited too to have Marla on here is because she's a Reiki Master. She holds Reiki Circles, and a lot of what we'll be talking about, although I know it will go out from here or from there, is how she's been using Reiki to help in these areas for herself and for other people. And tools and techniques and things like that as well. So how to contact her, find it in the show notes, the description, all of the links will be there. So, hi, welcome.
Here we are.
Here we are, yes. Well, why don't we just go ahead and get started with your story? And are there any, trigger warnings that we need to mention for people here today?
Well, we're definitely talking about eating disorder stuff. We're definitely talking about, binging and we're going to be using body terms. So all this, as we know with Reiki, this energy is infused with Reiki. So as people come and if they feel the trigger, really, I would just invite a breath in there and to allow the energy of Reiki to hold you in this, right? And allow some of anything that may show up to be held in the Reiki. And hopefully that will support.
Yeah, thank you so much for saying that, because I think that is so much too of what you talk about is how you use Reiki when these deep-seated feelings come up, and why it can be so helpful for supporting people through this process. And also, of course, be a complement to other ways of working through these things, but that, because we're on a Reiki podcast, how much it can help support you. So I appreciate you saying that. And also to our listeners to really, listen and activate Reiki now. And like you said, as or that we are also contributing Reiki throughout this podcast for people too.
Absolutely.
Awesome. All right. Well, so let's get started with your story. How did this all come to be? And then bringing Reiki into the conversation as well.
So my journey with my body and my food is not something that's very unique, unfortunately. I feel like so many, specifically women, deal with a lot of body issues, eating, we've grown up in this diet culture. And I didn't grow up with social media, thank God, because that would have been so much worse for me.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that we had the body positivity movement alongside this social media insanity. But I was one, and you're talking about your daughter, that was given a lot of attention for her body at a very young age. I was a very curvy little girl, and people would make what they thought were nice comments. But what I got from that was that my body mattered, and that I better keep it this way because I'm getting accolades for it. So I had a lot of focus on what my body looked like, what I ate, right? And it became very dysfunctional. And what I noticed is I was an actor and I was a dancer as well. So once again, a lot of focus on what my body looked like. And then society. And then on top of that, just using food and using exercise. And when we think about saying using food, that often people just means, oh, that means you're a binger. No, it's actually dieting. So it's emotional eating, it's emotional dieting, right? So I used food and my body as a way to deal with my it was my coping mechanism. Have a feeling, oh, I feel uncomfortable in my body. That must mean that I don't like my body and my body's ugly and there's something wrong with me, rather than I'm uncomfortable in my body. What's actually happening here? So this blew up into so much insanity, so much obsession. And it was when I finally hit rock bottom. And I've had many rock bottoms along the way. But when I finally hit that rock bottom and I realized that my rock bottom was me being the perfect weight that I wanted and having the perfect control. Like I made it, and I was miserable. I was more miserable than I'd ever been. And if you hear people talk about their stories and they've overcome freedom with food, and lots of times it's not the, stuffing their faces with food. It's actually finding that what they thought was going to be freedom. And it's not. It was so much of a prison and so much chains around me. And it was then that I realized that my happiness had nothing to do with my body, and that there was something actually really wrong. And no amount of controlling my body or what the scale was. I mean, it seems so obvious now, but really it's so subconscious and it's so insidious, right? And it's so given to us by culture that would make sense.
Yeah. Oh, I'll be happy when. And you get, like you said, when you have these cycles where you end up, at the weight that you think everybody tells you, oh my gosh, you look great. Oh my God, it's so much pressure. Like, oh
yeah, and then you have the pressure because now you have to keep it up.
Stop commenting. I know. Like, tell me something new. Yeah.
Yes,
really interesting that, like, when you were there, it didn't create this happiness, and how much you hear this, because this is like your work.
So I did all the things. I went to therapy. I went to group therapy. I joined a 12-step group. And I feel like my experience of healing my relationship with my body, my food was like such a piecemeal of different things brought in. And at the support group, there was a woman sitting there with one hand on her heart, one hand on her belly. Her eyes were closed. And she was just loving herself. And I was like, what is she doing? She's blatantly loving herself, like in front of people. And I was like so activated around that. And I went up to her and I said, what are you doing? What were you doing? Right. And she's like, I was giving myself Reiki. And she sent me, she introduced me to the whole Living Light Reiki community that was in New York City. And I started going to Reiki. And I always knew I was to use my hands. I was helping my mom heal her headaches and stuff as a child. So I was finding a way to use these hands somehow. But that was literally like Reiki was my guide through my recovery within everything that I did. And it still is to this day. It is the foundation of everything that I share. And yes, of course, it's the foundation of when I'm teaching a Reiki. I'm teaching a Reiki 2 next weekend, right? Like it's that, but I'm talking about like everything that I do in my journey with my body and my food completely changed from Reiki. Like my eyes opened, I got to see, I got to feel things so differently when Reiki came into my life.
Really interesting. So tell us about like that process for you with Reiki energy. I guess all of it, right?
Right.
What were some of the things that came up for you within this?
Yes.
The different emotions, and maybe even that you see in other people, because this is, kind of the focus of your world, that are common, that many of us probably relate to.
It's an interesting thing because a lot of it's in hindsight, right? I'm looking back, I'm like, oh, that was Reiki. Oh, that was Reiki. And what I noticed, so many different things. One was, here I was, self-help junkie, right? All my books were about like, I am going to fix myself so that I'm worthy to be loved, right? So it was all about being fixed. Once I fix this, once I'm not impatient, then I'm worthy of love. And what I learned from Reiki is that no, we change, we shift because we love ourselves so much. We're bringing in this loving energy that we become. It's not about shedding. It's about shedding from love. And that changed everything for me. That was like a won't, won't, those moments you're just like, won't, won't. It just changes. Like my body changed. I got grounded in this different way. And from that, I got to realize I was just stressed out all the time, running, 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 running. So what happens when we're running, running, running? And at that point, like I was not fueling myself with food, right? I'm running around New York, chicken with my head cut off, like, not feeding myself and being really ungrounded. I would then use food to ground me and overcompensate, right? And then I thought I had a food problem, but really I had a stress problem. And so Reiki really became this other tool that I could use to calm myself, to come into my body, to connect to my body. I was not connected to my body. I was running a foot in front of myself. Reiki brought me back into my body and got me to actually listen. What are my cues? What is my body telling me? What does it want? What does it need? What does it desire? Now, that can be a really scary thing for people, really scary for me, because if I am with myself, same thing with like intuition, body intuition, like, I don't want to hear that I'm supposed to eat right now. I don't want to hear that I'm supposed to stop eating right now. I don't want to hear that I'm supposed to love this body with what it looks like right now. Like, don't tell me that. Right. And so it's not about And this is what I love about Reiki and spirituality in this work. It's not about turning a light switch on and off. It's the slow burn. It's like Reiki, it meets us where we are. It doesn't force us into anything. It's like this loving trust experience of like, okay, let's see how that goes. Let's see how that feels to, to listen to our body in this situation. Oh, I lived through that. That actually felt good. Oh, wow, that was great. Right? So it's the building of trust that I feel like this divine, loving, unconditional love of Reiki has supported me. And also, like, I wasn't able to love myself, but this love, God's love, divine love, Reiki, came into these places. And I talk a lot about this with people who don't like different parts of their body. So, for example, our bellies. So many people like don't like their belly. They cover it up, they hide it, they don't look at it, and they expect it somehow to change. Like, okay, you're completely dissecting it from your body, so there's no energy flowing through there. And so when we bring love to that part of our body, we integrate that. And we can do that. We don't have to love we don't have to like it, but we can put our hands on it and give it love. And I think that that's one of the things Reiki showed me is like there's a difference between liking and loving. We may not like our belly, may not like what our body has to say, but can we love that? Can we respect it? And if we can't, can we allow the Reiki to do that for us? Can we allow ourselves to open up and put our hands on ourselves? Whether you do Reiki or not, placing on your hands on yourself and breathing in and feeling love is so powerful. So I can keep going. I guess I will. I also learned how to slow down with my food. This one actually, honestly, is still up for me. I notice that I still will speed up when I eat. So I don't have this mastered. But, what I have found is that the only time I would eat pleasurable, indulging food, right? The chocolates and all of that was when I was in like I'm going to do it. I'm going to, I'm going to eat this food. I don't care. Right. And there was and then I would just like eat it. And I would get no pleasure from it. So I'd continue to eat it, waiting for the pleasure to come in. And the pleasure never came in, just the upset at myself. And what I've learned from Reiki is that I can sit down and actually enjoy it and slow down. And my body actually receives it better. And so there are all these little tools that I've learned that Reiki has given me. And one of the ones that I didn't tell this story for a while because I had a lot of shame around it, but there was something about it that really felt so powerful when it comes to Reiki. And this is years into my recovery because I don't feel like my recovery took really a long time.
Yeah, I was going to ask that, what your timeline was.
It's cyclical.
Of course. It's ongoing, I would imagine.
It's ongoing.
Yeah.
I just want to say for those who are out there who are going through it, it doesn't go up. It doesn't go from down to up. It goes down, it goes up, it goes down, maybe not quite as far. It may go up a little bit, not as bad as before. It's just what I have found in my journey is like, how long am I in the low?
Mm-hmm.
So sometime I would be in the low. I was in the low for years. Then I was in the low for a couple months. And then I was in the low for a week. And then sometimes it's like, okay, this is a moment, or this is a day, or this is an hour. And it's like, that's what we're going for here, right? We're in a society, and I'm kind of ranting on something else, but I just want to presence that it's not like, oh, I'm back in it. And now here I am, I'm doing it again. No, here I am. Oh my goodness. I'm in the same place I was. Can I love myself? Can I give myself compassion for that rather than putting myself down? That's what is so important to do. And that's what Reiki has really taught me, is about how to bring compassion in the place of the shame, in the place of the, the whip and making myself wrong. So let me just take a breath there because I want to get back to my story. So here I am doing these Reiki circles every week in Los Angeles area and teaching about self-love, not being non-judgmental, right? And all the things. And I'm sitting there, I'm giving people Reiki, and there's a mirror there. And I'm looking in the mirror, I'm like, I am so disgusted. I cannot believe that's what I look like. And I can just hear myself, this, this like mean voice, right? And I'm like, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this here? What a hypocrite. How like that? I can't believe. And I just felt so like embarrassed, I mean, no one could hear me, but I'm like, what is this? And then I noticed that when I would go to a yoga retreat or I would go somewhere, a lot of my food stuff, a lot of my negative voice stuff would come up, and it would feel like this doesn't make any sense, but it actually does, because in the space of so much light, some of these places, this part of me that felt so ashamed of her body and so unsafe felt like, ooh, this is a safe place. Let me come up right here and maybe I'll get some of this love. So this part of me that would be putting myself down wanted the love and wanted the healing. So instead of making myself wrong for it, it was like, no, let's allow that voice here to be received with love and not make it that I'm wrong, that there's something wrong, that it's very smart. Like, I'm still here. There's still parts of me still here. Can you love me? Right. Mm-hmm. And I think that's important when we're on this spiritual journey. It really helped me with the imposter syndrome, and people talk about that, right? Is that there's always these parts of us that need love and care.
Well, it's the shadow work, and that comes up in different areas all the time when we're in these healing spaces, because that's what they're for. And even if we're facilitating with Reiki, we receive as we give. So it is, like you said, it kind of can percolate.
Thank you for saying that. That's such a quicker way of talking about it. Shadow work. Thank you. Cut to the chase. Shadow work. Yes, exactly. Totally.
Well, it's so complex. I think that's the other piece of it. As you were talking about the shame, I thought, that's one of the big pieces. And I would say that in my own self, it's one of the places that I don't want to say give myself permission. That's not exactly it, to criticize myself. Like, it's the place where I can go into that self-doubt. I can go into the body image shaming and all of the things that go with it, and say things to myself that I would never even think about someone else. And so it's so complex, because that same thing where I notice, wait, take this time to love me instead. Or, the belly one is such a good example. It's such a I did it just the other day where I was criticizing my belly, and I went, oh, wait, and put my hands on my belly and went, oh, I love you. And so it's that continual kind of recognition. And there is a lot of healing work, I think, looking at my generation at 67, and what was really important for women was to be pretty, look good, be thin. I mean, and then you were talking about reaching certain goals, and I thought, even when I reached those goals, I still thought I was fat. And how many women say that, and maybe men too, but people say that no matter what, that body image never changed. I still saw myself the same, very thin or heavy. It was still, I did that part of it didn't really change for me.
Yeah, because it's always it's the underbelly of that belly, pun intended. And that's one of really my specialties, is that when people come to me because, their food is out of control or their negative body image is out of control, they think that we're going to fix the body or fix the food. And it's always, what is that underneath experience? And some people say, well, I don't have any big trauma. And I didn't have a lot of trauma either. Like, I didn't have a lot of like big, huge, big T trauma when it comes to childhood, but we all have those little moments, the small T, the moments where our needs aren't met in a fundamental way that we can just bypass, but really do matter. And when that is built up over time with beliefs and patterns, and then having society really affirm that we're supposed to feel this way, and millions of dollars are put into us suffering. And so to heal this is to go deep in. It's to go into the deep places and love those places. And only we know what we need. Only we know, and only we can give that to ourselves. And that's a whole process too, of letting go of that external. And let's face it, I think it is a journey. And I think it is the journey of being here in this 3D, in these bodies. Like, how do we continue to show up? And I think as we age, there is more wisdom around that. And yet I know a lot of, women, people who are in their 70s, 80s, that are still talking about this.
Yeah,
So
seriously.
it's not like we outgrow it. But the issue at hand is, because it is so normalized, there's so many people living in this people are living in low grade chronic stress, and they're living in low grade dysfunction with their body and food, thinking that it is just the way it has to be. And I hold for people so deeply that it does not have to be your reality, because food is everywhere and your body is everywhere. So it's not like you can get away from it. You're taking it with you. You have to eat every single day, right? So it's going to always be there. And if it's always an issue, then we got to look at that, because we want to live lives that are full, and we want to be our authentic self and be alive, and not have this, oh my gosh, like, what am I going to eat? Oh my gosh, is this okay? Because we're constantly bombarded with what we're supposed to eat.
Well, that was actually one of the questions that I was going to ask, is the food noise. So for those of you that are unsure of what food noise is food noise is constantly thinking about food. And from the perspective that you just talked about, of like, when am I going to eat? When am I not going to eat? If we're on the other end of that, the calories, all of the diet culture aspect of it, but then also the thinking about food of, what am I going to eat next? I can be eating and thinking, what am I going to eat next? I'm going to reward myself with food. If I did something good, I'm going to emotionally eat if there's something bad. There's, oh, this tastes good. This sounds good. And the mouth pleasure aspect of it, right? Oh, I like food. And so how was that journey for you, and how you see that with people, and also how we can support ourselves through that process?
You just shared my whole experience in my life, right?
Well, because I think
We all go, yep, I know
it's a
about
common
food.
experience.
Yeah.
I have a funny story too after that I want to share, but I want to hear your perspective on this.
This is where we have to unlearn a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where we have to be. And you had, I think it was a recent podcast about inner authority. Yeah. We have to be our own inner authority around our food choices. So I understand if you do not know what to eat. There's a lot of people who are like, I actually don't know what's healthy. I don't know. Mm-hmm. And there is an education that is needed. And I get that. Simply said, eat eat whole
Whole
foods,
foods.
right? Like simply said, right? But then everyone makes it so complicated. Um, and it just is like a mind F, right? It's a mind bleep.
Yeah.
Um, and so we have to slow down this process. One of the things that I find is, and this was my experience, is that I thought I was obsessed with food, but I actually wasn't feeding myself enough. I was obsessed and my mind was always thinking about it because I didn't give my body the actual satiation to go, oh, we're full. Oh, we're grounded. So lots of times it would take me a while. I'm like, eat the food, just eat the thing and then get on with your life. Right. So, this intermittent fasting thing, and I'm not telling people how to eat, but what it has done for people is given them a lot of permission to not eat during the morning, starve themselves, and then eat a sensible lunch, which is like a salad and some protein or something that someone said is supposed to be enough food, right? And they're on nothing. And then they come home and they're like, they eat their meal and it may be a good meal, but then they're like, oh my gosh, I just need more. I need more. I need more, right? Because if we do not feed ourselves, our body is going to win. People say that, like, I was doing so well on a diet, I was doing great, and all of a sudden I started craving fats and this and that. That is because your body is an animal. Your body is primal, and if you don't feed it, it's going to make sure it's going to bring all those cravings. It's going to bring all that stuff up. That's why dieting doesn't work, because the body will win, and it's going to say, "Ooh, oh, they're eating right now." They're eating right now. Let's get it in as much as we can because they're probably going to restrict and starve us later. So let's just take this opportunity. And we feel like we're out of control, but the body, the mind, the animal is actually taking care of us. So if you think that by starving yourself that you're overcoming anything and you're restricting, it's not happening. And so that is one thing that I just want to put on to people, because I see that they're like, they come to me and they're like, well, I'm doing this and I'm eating this and I'm, and they're so proud of the little that they're eating. And it doesn't actually work, right? Because we do want pleasure. Like sometimes I'll be like, okay, this meal is way too healthy. Like it's not going to meet that part in me that needs that thing. Because if that thing doesn't get met, and we know what that thing is, right? Then we're now like walking around looking and picking and craving later, an hour later, and that's where I find a lot of the obsession calm down, is by actually giving ourselves real food. Now, within that, shall I pause there? Do you have any questions? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, keep going. Unless you have something.
Yeah. I think the only thing I would add to it is when you were talking about what real food is, to be honest with you, that was a huge part of my journey, because I was not raised with real food. I didn't know that there was like real broccoli until I was like 16 years old. It was always out of a box. And the first time I actually really grasped like what, completely real food was, I was actually in Hawaii, in Hana, and we stopped at a place to eat a salad. They picked the lettuce straight out of the garden for that salad. And it was the first time that I really realized, oh, this is what it means by live food. Where before, not that I hadn't eaten plenty of salads and things, but there was just that really big difference in it. And I just didn't have that concept of what that even meant. And then being in the diet culture after I had my first child, And I lectured for Weight Watchers for like 5 years. And that same thing where we really did, no fat. And the foods that we ate were just, that was the focus, low calorie, no fat. So that was then what I learned about here's good nutrition. So learning about what actually real food is, I think is a big piece of it because I truly just didn't know.
Yeah. And I think you're right in that. I think there is an education. And then there's also like some people, and maybe you're listening to this, aren't able to get the fresh
Yes.
food. And I just want to honor and acknowledge that you can still have peace with your food and not be able to get the freshest vegetables and all of that. Like that's still possible for for you, right? And that being said, like as much as we can get the fruits and the vegetables and less processed does help something in the body to shift out of that craving. I have noticed that. Um, and what I've noticed over time with finding more peace with my food is that I have gotten healthier and healthier. So the food that I eat now is, if you would have looked on it years ago when I was in my insanity, it would have been really unhealthy for me because it would have been me be restricting. It would have been me being orthorexic, and that's a term of having it too healthy, right? But now I can eat that food and feel very satiated and very good about it. And so we do change our things that we crave, the things that we desire, are literally our tongue changes, and how we feel satiated with food changes when we are allowing pleasure into our life other than just food. So one of the things that I learned from Reiki, and I feel like Reiki was kind of like the gateway drug of spirituality for me. It really opened up these places of like, where do I need other support? And for me, I realized I had a lot of um, trauma is sexually, really a lot of sexual trauma and things that I needed to work through. And so I went on a deep journey into Tantra, became a Tantra teacher, and really learned around this sacred sexuality. And most importantly, learned the power of pleasure. And I think we're so stuck, right? And we're walking around like this, tight. If you can see me, I'm tight, right? And we're not able to allow life to be enjoyed. So the one thing that we go to is the food because it is pleasurable and we have to eat it, right? And it does ground us. It does help us with when we're feeling emotional. But what I have found when I talk about pleasure is not just sexual pleasure, it's pleasure, pleasure in how we move our body, pleasure in how we experience life, see with our eyes, right? Enjoy ourselves, allow life to come to us, right? When that begins to open up, food finds its place in that. And that's not to say that we can't, that we don't get as much joy out of pleasure, out of our food, and pleasure out of our food. I think even more so. However, there's something that lands in our system in a deep way. And that's why this food journey, this body journey is so deep because it touches on so many places in us.
So, what about some of the actual how-tos with Reiki? So, some of the specific techniques that you use, and whether it's for yourself or in your coaching.
So one of the things that I do on a regular basis, I go to this recovery center. I do a lot of Reiki Body-Love Circles. I do a lot of Reiki for transmission for peace with food. And what that is bringing a lot of intention, to the fact that we don't love our bodies or our food feels out of control or whatever that is. And we bring that up into the light and we allow the Reiki energy to come in. What I have found is, especially in this recovery center, and I say this with a lot of my clients and in the workshops that I do, is is that we're all working so hard to figure this out. If you're on this journey, you have done so many things. And likely, if you're listening to this, there's still an edge there for you. And what I have found with Reiki is when we're giving ourselves Reiki, it's accumulative, it is grace. It is the energy of grace. It's like how about we can receive, we can allow ourselves to be healed, not from doing, not from making it happen, but by relaxing and allowing this beautiful, loving energy to go into the places, because we know Reiki is so intelligent. Can it go into these places and allow us to heal? So that is kind of like the macro that I see, right? And that Reiki is so intentional that we can say this and say, I'm calling in this Reiki to help me to love my belly today. I'm calling in Reiki to help me to have peace with food, right? On our food before we eat. Can we take that moment and place our hands over our food and give Reiki to it? And this is what I have found with that, is that we know that food has energy, right? And so if we're giving Reiki to the food and we're asking, what I'll ask very specifically, especially if I'm in like the is this food okay? Is this, oh my gosh, I don't know. Is it right? Is it wrong? Is it wrong? Right? It's like, wow, 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 right? And the mind goes crazy. If we're talking about the food insanity, it's like, please allow my body to receive this food. Allow my body to assimilate and digest and take in all the resources that this food has. And whatever I don't need, allow that to move through me. And there's something about doing that on a regular basis that the body relaxes. Because when we have so much stress around food, literally the body's like, this is bad. Oh my gosh. What did they just put in our body? This is danger, 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 right? That's what's happening when we're in this fight or flight with our food. And so to calm down and to allow Reiki to calm us down in that, literally the body, and we've all had those experiences where you have the big bowl of pasta, right? And you're shoving it in your mouth and you're feeling really uncomfortable afterwards. And then 2 weeks later, you go with a friend and maybe it's even the same restaurant that you did takeout. And this time you're sitting and you're having some wine and you're eating the pasta and you leave feeling completely different, right? There was lightness. The body didn't feel like there was any danger around that. And I think that is really important to talk about, that Reiki does help us release stress and can help us literally release this stress around our food.
I think that I like the idea, like you said kind of earlier, is all we have to do is just invite it, maybe with some intention, because I think that is a really big piece of that, is that we are like, oh gosh, I really have to spend so much time. It just puts a lot of pressure on if I have to spend so much time in this. And it's not to say that you won't, but because it comes up and sometimes you have time and space to work on it. But if you can just start with just, putting your hands on your stomach or your belly, or putting your hands on your food and inviting the intention, that kind of starts that snowball effect around it. And it's interesting because actually, I'm a person that knows quite a bit about nutrition, and I'm not a nutritionist or dietitian, so not to that level. But then it's almost like it's like anything, because of like the current diet culture, where it's not like, there's an aspect of it of like get skinnier, but now it's this current diet culture of this is the best way to eat. And you mentioned intermittent fasting, there's like that, or there's, keto, there's vegan, there's carnivore, there's blood sugar monitoring. There's just so many different things out there that it's like, well, no, this is the right way. And so many different things work for so many different people when it comes to nutrition based on who they are, high fat, low fat, deficit, not, it's like all of those things that it's like, no matter what, if I'm I'm eating something that's organic whole food, I still feel like, oh, I'm not eating this within the IF window, the intermittent fasting window. Is this bad? Like, it's like almost like it's created so much guilt and so much like that I'm not doing something right through all of these different options. And I'm not even saying that not even all of them have like their benefits, like there is, of course. And and because there's so much access to, information around all of it, it's like I'm eating an organic carrot. Oh, it's not organic enough. You're doing bad because it's not organic enough. And as a carrot, it has some higher sugar content than other vegetables. And so you have to feel bad about it because you're not eating it between 12 and 8.
Right.
It's like, oh, or if you're on a carnivore diet, you can't eat the vegetables, or it's a high FODMAP, or, it's like all of these things. It's created this other level. And then let alone if I eat a potato chip, like, exactly.
Potato chips.
Yeah,
Zucchini
exactly.
has carbs.
I know. I mean, and talk about the processed and the seed oils and all the things. And I'm not even saying that any of that is wrong. I'm just saying that it has created this different level of diet culture or different level of guilt that it's like I almost can't eat anything without feeling some level. And that's a personal journey, but I also feel like there's a lot of people out there that also go through this piece of it, because I've seen also other social media. It's like you pick up an apple. Nope, you can't do that. You pick up, nope, you can't do that. And so there's like these jokes around it, that it is just another level of like, oh gosh, now I am having to work through this. And that's my own personal journey. I'm not assigning that to anybody else. But if I'm being completely honest and a little bit vulnerable here, I would say that that's a journey that like I'm constantly traveling now.
I'm so glad you're bringing this up, because I think that we've kind of hinted at it, but we haven't put it out there so clearly. And I think you're 100% right around this. I think that and you're right, there's it's true. Like a lot of seed oil isn't necessarily that great for you. There's certain way. However, let's talk about, what is your intention, Robin? What is your intent? Like, we got to look at the intention. Why do we want to eat that keto? Why do we want to do that? If the intention is to just lose weight, then that's going to throw us off. If the intention is, oh, how do I look at all the options that are out there? What would work for me? That feels like I want to check that out. Let's see. Let's play in that realm for a little while, right? But we're doing it it's not like I'm doing this keto now, right? It's, let's check this out and see, does my body like this? You know what? I'm feeling when I'm doing this, I'm really craving this, or I'm feeling like I'm boxing myself into something and I'm making myself wrong. If I'm making myself wrong about that, how can I open up? So it's like taking what you like and leaving the rest, right? Like we want to use the information in a way, and this goes back to what I said kind of earlier, like with the Reiki. It's like, it's for us, right? Like Reiki allows us to change and shift ourselves from a place of love. So how can all this information be sifted through? I want to love my body. I want to care for this body with so much health and so much care. And possibly it is around something around weight. I know that I'm almost like wanting to give up on people not wanting that, because it's so in us, right? However, for it to be what makes or breaks the diet meaning the food program, it's like, that's what we need to look at. What's the deeper intention here? And this is where it's like, oh, how does my body like that? Doesn't really like that. Does like that. That makes sense. Is that okay that I'm not doing that right now?
Yeah.
Well, I also really like what you said. It's because we say it about Reiki all the time. Just let Reiki do the work. And so I'm almost like, duh, just do some Reiki with my food for myself, take that time. And I do, but I can't say I really do. And then does it fall into another should? Like, oh, I should always do this beforehand. And so I think it really is that nice idea of grace and truly inviting Reiki to just come in and sort through it all for us.
Yeah,
That's what we use it for in our other ways in our life.
it's the control, right? It's the fear of letting go of the control. And the thing with control is we can put it down for a while. And if we need to pick it back up to make ourselves feel safe, we can pick it back up. And then we can put it down and replace it with the Reiki at any point. So it's okay that it's not something that we just put down and leave it down, because that can feel really scary, right? So giving ourselves, like, I know that Reiki did not come in for us to be shitting ourselves, right?
Right.
Around using it. Like Reiki would be like, hell no, like you're not doing that to me, right? Like I am here to love you. I'm here to love you and surround you while you are controlling, while you are in your obsession. Like I'm still here and I'm always here. So that's something that I've come to, right? And it kind of really touches my heart in a way of, when people think that they're so alone, and we're all so many people are struggling with this, right? And like you're sharing around that, which felt vulnerable. It's like everyone listening is like, oh my gosh, yes, oh, right? So
Oh,
I
I
think,
think everyone listening is in their own story around it.
yeah,
We
yeah,
all have the story.
yeah. I have a lot of Reiki videos, healing videos, and I've done quite a few. One for emotional eating, one for weight balance, one for post binge. So invite people to check those out if you're wanting to know, like, well, how do I bring Reiki into this? So they're 10 minutes. You can just listen and just allow the Reiki and allow me to channel that for you. So I can send some links for that if you want to.
I was going to say, where do they find that?
Yeah, and that was actually my next question, Marla, is that I know that you have like a free offering that people can use for some of this. Your book, and even how people can work with you.
Right. Yes.
Really
So my free course is Breaking the Cycle of Emotional Eating. And it is a free course. I don't hold back because it's free. I really give a lot of good stuff in there. So feel free to reach out to do that. Reach out to me. Like, this is a conversation. Don't wait. Let's get in there. Let's do this work. In my on my website, you can message me any questions about this. And check out the YouTube page. Maybe I'll give you all a direct link to like the Reiki for emotional eating. And yes, my book, My Befriend Yourself, is in pre-order. We'll see when this comes out. And I'd love for you all to join that, because that's going to be a lot of fun. If you pre-order, there's going to be a free gift. There's going to be a free workshop. I have a free course that I'm going to give you. That I'm in the works with. And I have a Body Compassion Collective course that I'm going to be giving away, and a lot of other things, opportunities to work together as well. So
fantastic.
yeah.
And then we'll have to have you back on when your book is released too. So, but go and pre-order, because we definitely would want to hear also about, what's in your book. And, but I know you also on your social media, you have, a lot of resource oriented videos that people can, just by following you, pick up the tips and tricks and things like that we kind of talked about today, but obviously even more. So that's another place that you can go and find more information about all of this. So
And you teach Reiki in Maui?
I teach Reiki in Maui. I do a lot of virtual Reiki. That's something that happened during COVID, kind of opened that whole world up. So I teach virtually now. So anywhere you are, I'm
Nice
available.
too.
Yeah, it's amazing, right? I'm like, who knew I'd be doing this, right?
Right.
It's so powerful.
Yeah.
It's so powerful. Yes.
Global communication.
Love it. I love
Yeah.
it.
Connection and global community.
Yeah.
Yeah, that we can build. Well, again, just to share with everybody about your website, again, is go love yourself or love your body, loveyourself.com.
And that links to all of our social media and everything else too. So
you can find everything there. It's a really nice website too.
Oh, thank you.
So, and her name is Marla Mervis-Hartmann. So you can also find her with her name, but love your body, loveyourself.com. And then the book that is coming out, Befriend Yourself. And that is coming out. It'll be on the bookshelves in the fall. So we'll have you back before that so we can go deeper dive into that book. But just to finish up, one nugget that you really gave today too. One for me was I never identified it as a control issue.
same. Yeah.
You too, Robin?
Yeah. And especially because, yeah, it's so true. Well, and especially because I would say, where I veer is to the more of the kind of like overeating side of things and thinking, oh, that's a control thing too with all of it. Yeah. Sorry, Colleen, go ahead.
No, it's true. It did. It just dinged like, oh, one more of those control issues to let Reiki come in and like, okay, Reiki, just come in and help me with that. And then that other piece of, let go of the control and let Reiki come in and just help navigate all that efforting around it and to the place of just listening to my body of what feels good. Because half the time I'll notice that I'm eating something and not even notice that I'm eating. And so letting it come in to help with those all of the things. Like I say, I know everybody listening or many people listening are in their own mind and their own stories about all of the complexities around this issue. And I feel like what you've said today really has helped even just simplify it.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate being here.
Thank you so much.
Well, and we can be found at reikilifestyle.com. My social is Robin Benelli Reiki, and then Colleen's social is Reiki Lifestyle or Reiki Lifestyle Official. All right. Thank you so much, as always, everybody, for listening. We are just so grateful for all of you and grateful for you too, Marla, and your work that you're doing in this space.
And one last thing I have to say, I can just feel the ocean dwellers out there so much with you. They are so present. The whales, I can really hear their song.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for everybody for listening.
Thanks. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.